Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about an incredible strategic opportunity that has presented itself to India. It may be a window for India to dominate the central Indian Ocean. So it's a geopolitical opportunity, the kind that appears only occasionally in many years. So what has happened is that there is a set of islands called Chagos Islands, Indian Ocean, and I will show you the map, and you can see it on the map. And the British, who control these islands, there are about 60 islands in the archipelago, have now transferred sovereignty of that to Mauritius. So now Mauritius has become in charge of these islands. The Mauritius always claimed that it belonged to them. So now Mauritius has sovereignty over that, and India has tremendous economic and cultural influence in Mauritius. And so it hopes that it can become a way for India to essentially not only have greater influence, but also perhaps to even dominate the region. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a little bit of history about the Chagos Islands and how they were originally part of Mauritius and how they then became part of it. A little bit of information about Mauritius, also why it's important. You will be very surprised to learn about some of its connections to India, which are stunning. For example, India this year in 2025 has notched up $1 trillion in total foreign direct investments. So in its lifetime, that is since 1947 till now, India has received about $1 trillion, but 25% of that has come from Mauritius, a small island. Because of the enormous influence India has there, it has become a way for people to money launder. Essentially, rich Indians are going to Mauritius, opening companies, and then reinvesting back in India. But nevertheless, it is the biggest foreign direct investor in India. At the second spot is Singapore. So we will talk a bit more about this, but before we go into the geopolitical implications for the Indo-Pacific strategy, this is a tiny little set of islands. Mauritius also is not a very big country, and you will find that at least four major powers are converging in this region. The US has a military base there. It has had that for decades, the Diego Garcia base, which was so instrumental in the United States wars in the Middle East, in the Iraq War in 1992, in the Iraq War in 2002, in the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001. The US ran a lot of its operations out of Diego Garcia, which is part of the Chagos Island, which are now officially part of Mauritius. Until recently, they were part of the British territories. And so we'll talk about that. But before that, please subscribe to the channel, to Conversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your social political network. So one of the things that has happened a couple of weeks ago is that the United Kingdom has decided that it's going to transfer Chagos Island to Mauritius. It's not only going to transfer it to them, it's going to obviously continue to lease the island Diego Garcia, and then it's going to lease that to the United States. So UK is going to rent it from Mauritius, lease it from Mauritius, and then lease it back to the US, so that the US base, which has been there for a long time, will continue. So basically, the understanding is that all the 60 islands or so that are part of the Chagos archipelago will now become part of Mauritius, but there will be no change in the status of the US military presence in Diego Garcia. It has an airport, it has a port, and US parks its B-52 bombers there, and so on. So there's a significant military asset for the US, especially since it is located in the Indo-Pacific region. So it is a very important island, a very important military base for the US for its security and military interests in this part of the world. The deal is very interesting. There's a lot of tensions in England going on right now. Starmer says that it's going to cost them about $1 billion at the most. but apparently over a period of time, it's going to cost Britain about $30 billion. So Starmer is not only giving it away, but it's going to pay money to Mauritius for renting that particular island, Diego Garcia, but they're also going to spend or invest more than $1 billion in development aid to Mauritius as a compensation, I guess, for basically occupying those islands. Mauritius is an interesting country. It was uninhabited till until very recently. It was in the 10th century that Arab traders, probably on their way to India, discovered the island, but they did not colonize it or populate it. That island then became part of the French division of the world, I guess. And then the French leased it out to the Portuguese. So the Portuguese tried to first. So anyway, it was Europeans, Portuguese, the French, and then also some Dutch who basically populated the island for some time. And then at some point, it became part of the British Empire. The French ceded these islands, including Mauritius, to the British, and it became part of the British Empire. So in 1965, the British basically, through the process of global decolonization, granted Mauritius its independence. But in 1965, the British separated Chagos Islands, called them the British India Ocean Territory, from Mauritius. And while it gave independence to Mauritius, it kept the Chagos Island and then the Diego Garcia base, a US established its base. So Mauritius continued to claim, and then finally it started winning. So in 2019, in the International Court of Justice, the ICJ found the UK's continued administration of Chagos as unlawful. It ruled that UK should end its administration as rapidly as possible. You know, it's a very similar decision to what advisory decision that ICJ, I think, gave about ending Israeli occupation of West Bank and Gaza. So the ICJ gave this decision that the British should end it in 2019. Then the UN General Assembly passed a resolution in 2019 overwhelmingly in Mauritius sovereignty should be in favor, that sovereignty of those islands should be transferred from UK to Mauritius. UK initially said no to all of this, rejected the ICJ and the UN resolution, but in November 2022, the UK and Mauritius began negotiations, and UK finally agreed to transfer that sovereignty over to it. So gradually, you could say that the British Empire is continuing to shrink as it loses more and more of its foreign territories. The whole of Mauritius is a very interesting place. Its total population is just 1.2 million, 34,000. So basically 12 lakhs and 35,000 people live there. Uh, uh, and its total GDP in 2022 to now is just $15 billion. Remember, this is the country which has invested $250 billion in India, but the actual GDP of this country is just $15 billion, and its per capita is around 10,000 US dollars. So its quality of life is pretty high, and it is an upper middle income economy. So, so with the per capita GDP per capita of 10,000, and if you adjust it for PPP, I think it becomes much more than that. I'm not sure exactly how much, but right now it's in nominal terms, the GDP per capita is about 10,000 US dollars. Its trading partners are, guess what? India and China. It imports about 805 and exports about one. So the total trade with India is a little less than $1 billion, and its total trade with China is $1.1 billion. So economically, China has an advantage in Mauritius. I will talk about that a little later when I talk about the geopolitical competition there. Uh, for some reason, Mauritius now does not measure ethnicity of its demographics, so only religion is measured. So the country has basically four groupings. It has Hindus, Muslims, and Christians, and others. So if you are a Buddhist or a Sikh or an atheist, you all are put into the fourth category called the other. So there are about 47 to 48%, a little less than half uh, of the population is Hindu. And so to me, that came as a surprise because I was until recently under the impression that there are three Hindu majority countries in the world, which is India, Nepal, and Mauritius. But apparently, Mauritius is not, it's a plurality in the sense that Hinduism is the biggest religion in Mauritius, but it does not have more than 50% of the population. So Hindus are about 47% of the population, about 33% or more, 37% I think are Christians, and about 18% are Muslims. So these are the three big religious groups uh, in 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 Mauritius. Hindus, followed by Christians, followed by Muslims. Most of the population, about 70%, is of Indian origin, and some of them are French and some European, and then some Chinese. So you will find that there are basically three ethnic groups there. So there is some Chinese ethnic presence also, but now, like I said, we are not measuring that anymore. So Mauritius is very interesting. It has long cultural and historical ties because 70% of its population is of Indian origin, which means a lot of the Muslims also are of Indian origin. They in Mauritius. So now, after this Chagos Island, if you look at the maps of that region, you will find that it's very, very critical. Its location is bang in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It is way south of Maldives, but it is very close to Africa. It seems to be equidistance between Indonesia and like the islands Java and Africa. Because Indonesia is a very strange country. Some parts of Indonesia are closer to India than Malaysia, and some parts of Indonesia are many, many hours further away from Malaysia because it's also an archipelago that basically is at the bottom of East Asia. So the Chagos archipelago and Mauritius are bang in the middle of the Indian Ocean, far to the south of India. And anybody who is based there, that's why you can understand why the United States wanted to have a base there in Diego Garcia, because they can cover, I mean, they can their bombers can fly and bomb Yemen. They can bomb Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia. They can bomb obviously India, Pakistan, and Asia. All so in a radius of perhaps 1,000 miles, you will find most of these targets. So now that India has influence over Malaysia and establishes some kind of a military presence there, it will be a very important step forward for India's security agenda to counter what is called as the China's pearls. The China is developing certain port cities which are like encircling India. So it has Gwadar in Pakistan, then it has Maldives, Malé in Maldives, which is now under Chinese influence, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, and then Bangladesh. So China is sort of encircling India. So it gives India an opportunity to cut it open by having a major presence. India already has security cooperation. So most of the Coast Guard of Mauritius is under India's influence. India helps it do patrolling and helped it provided with ships and resources and training. And not only that, by some historical quirk, the national security advisor of Mauritius has to be of Indian origin or Indian citizenship. So it's an Indian citizen who becomes the national security advisor of Mauritius, which is a very unusual relationship. Um, between countries. So that gives you an idea of how close Mauritius and India are. So the competition there is significant because there are four powers really which are competing for influence: Great Britain, the United States, India, and China. India and China are right now basically competing From an economic perspective, China has already signed a free trade agreement with Mauritius, and it is now the biggest trading partner of Mauritius with $1.1 billion of trade. India is second with about $970 million. UK and US have very little economic interest. In fact, US doesn't seem to be interested in Mauritius at all. It just wants its base. It got what it wants, which is a base. India and China obviously are competing to eventually have a military base there. The investments that they are making are very strategic and dual purpose. But this is a great opportunity for India to perhaps this could become India's first military base across. If you notice, China has already established a naval base in Djibouti. Djibouti is in at very close to Yemen and Eritrea, and it's a very strategic location because it controls the waterways between the Arab world and Africa. So for India, this could be India's first real major base in the Indo-Pacific or in the Indian Ocean. But if you look at the map and see its location, it is, I mean, it would be a big mistake for India not to establish a significant base right there. And because that way it can help monitor China's developments in Djibouti and China's developments in Sri Lanka and Maldives. So this is a very, very critical for India to be thinking. It's a great opportunity because of the cultural and economic relationship and historical relationship that India has had with Mauritius so far. We'll see what happens. I will keep an eye on this and revisit this in a year or two to see what has happened because this transfer has just taken place. We will see. Basically, one of the things to monitor is the investments that are coming in from China. China has promised to invest a lot, and what Mauritius is doing is maintaining its own strategic autonomy, and so it's basically benefiting from both India and China. And as long as it is not fully committed to one side, I think it will continue to benefit because both India and China are basically trying to seduce Mauritius by giving it aid, financial development, etc. So right now, Mauritius is in a very good place. It's receiving developmental aid from India, from China, and now the British, who are going to invest about $1 billion there. And somehow, I think what Mauritius needs to do is also have direct negotiations with the US about its military presence in the Diego Garcia and try to see if it can get some development aid even from the US, also over and above what the Brits are offering. And the US usually is quite generous on these matters. What could be a very small amount for the US can be a significant development aid for a country the size of 1.2 million. It's slightly bigger than the state of Delaware, a country with just 15 billion GDP. Even a few $100 million would be quite advantageous for that country. So we'll see what happens, but I think this is a great strategic opportunity for India, which has aspirations to become a regional power and a global power. So if India can leverage this to establish basically what it needs is a military base in the Chagos Islands. That's what I'm talking about. So anyway, I hope you found this particular geopolitical update interesting. So please keep watching Conversations, subscribe to this channel, press the bell icon, like this video. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a member of the channel, and I frequently have Zoom conferences with members. We chat face to face. I get a lot of helpful suggestions and feedback from them, which I have often implemented. So anyway, thank you for watching Conversation. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtada Khan. Take care.